Let's say hello to Frank of Queens. Yes, Frank.
The Crackpot Brigade is at it again, Bob Grant. The Crackpot Brigade from the 1980s, those who I use the acronym of Anti-Nuclear Use SAPs, or ANUSes, have been running ads in the New York Times and other papers throughout the country protesting the proposed launch of the plutonium-powered Cassini rocket to Saturn. And this is the same old, tired crew of fear-mongers, panic-mongers, anxiety sellers, who always tell us that the worst is going to happen when America seeks to get upon the path of progress. They remind me of those reactionaries in that old science fiction classic, Things to Come, who wanted to stop a launch of a rocket to the moon. But in this case, they keep telling us how the rocket may crash and spread radioactivity throughout the world, and that there'll be cancer and all kinds of related ailments from this. You know, not as if nothing could be further from the truth. But look at who's involved in this. That old bag, remember from New Zealand, Dr. Helen Caldicott. She's finally found a cause where she could get some publicity. Dr. Michio Kaku of City University. Well, let me tell you about Dr. Michio Kaku. Dr. Michio Kaku is full of caca, because when he's going to be at that protest Saturday by the UN, he's not mentioning that before the Gulf War, he and Carl Sagan and the rest of that ilk was saying how the Kuwaiti oil fields were going to burn for years, and we wouldn't be able to put out the fires of the oil wells, and how it would mimic a nuclear winter, and we were headed for total ecological disaster, the end of life on Earth as we know it. Well, what happened? Not only was the war over quicker than you could blink an eye, but the oil wells were put out in weeks, not months, not years, not decades, but weeks. And Dr. Michio Kaku and Carl Sagan were never questioned about this. Why should I have to believe what he says? Or take Dr. Helen Caldicott, the old bag from New Zealand, who back in the 1980s didn't want United States nuclear-powered ships to berth in New Zealand ports, who was against the cruise missile, who kept on predicting dire fates of a nuclear war when Ronald Reagan, God bless him, dreamed up the SDI. She was wrong on every count. These people are reactionaries. They hate America. They hate the West. They see progress not as enlightening and bettering our lives as a threat to us. And they have some bizarre and strange New Age thought of what society should be. We don't need them telling us and telling NASA what to do. There's always a threat when it comes to progress. But if we're going to look at life like that, then, you may as well stay home in a cocoon. Mankind would still be in a cave and not have fire of the wheel. These people are reactionaries, and we don't need this crew to come back. These people are, as Hitler said, they will follow me whatever the cause is, because they need a cause to believe in. And as far as Clinton and this proposed tax on cigarettes, just remember this. Quebec had the highest tobacco tax in Canada. Do you know that more cigarettes were sold on the black market in Quebec than were sold legally, and the Quebec government had to cut the taxes in half? So don't anybody believe that Clinton is going to do this. And like any good fascist Nazi, Clinton knows you control a man's taste, and you control a man. Thank you.
Vintage Frank. Thank you, Frank, here on WOR.
Nation. We have Ellen DeGeneres and Ann Hesh, her so-called domestic partner, parading across newspapers, and the media elite gush, and they're so happy to say, oh, isn't it wonderful? They want to have a baby. Well, it is not wonderful. It is an unnatural abomination. And as much as they may try to disavow it, she still needs a man's sperm So she cannot be impregnated unless that seed is given from a man. Two women being so-called domestic partners and being said that they are the same as a natural law of a man and a woman as being equal is an abomination. It doesn't mean that we hate these people or that we want to do evil to these people, but these are sick people. We have psychiatry, which is one of the great curses of the 20th century, which has supplanted divine law because there is no moral equivalency. As they say, guilt is a man-made emotion. Well, that's just not true. For over 5,000 years, it has been seen as unnatural. And the societies that have practiced it, that have practiced homosexual unions, no longer exist. Psychiatry would tell us that this is natural. If you think about it, seriously think about it, since the 1970s, psychiatry suddenly tells us which they once said was an illness, and we don't hate people that have an illness. We are to pity them and to help them. They now try to tell us that this illness is natural, and if we oppose this social illness, that we're the ones who are unnatural, that we are the ones who are sick. When they use a ersatz phony word such as homophobia, there is no such word. All it means is homo means man, phobia means fear. I have no fear of men, so therefore that is a word that has no true meaning. It is a fraudulent word that is being used to control the population. They don't want to use the word husband and wife. Instead, partner. No, that's a husband and a wife. That is a natural union. That is a union of natural law. And yet this society, which is headed towards disaster, rejects this. And remember, the Nazis and the communists rejected the Ten Commandments. Just as in this country they were taken down from schools in our country, and we know that holocausts occurred in those nations because human life became wholesale. Human life meant absolutely nothing. And Bob, for a long time I've wanted to speak about this topic, but I never have. But I want to say this. I believe that abortion is unnatural. I'll tell you why. It is said in this country, in the last century, it was said that a black man was 3/5 of a man, and that was accepted constitutionally. So constitutionally, when you say that a fetus is not a human being, it is equated with the same thing. And who is being aborted? Those are white babies that are being aborted. And that is why in this country, in the next century, the white population will be going down. There is no other group that has been pushed towards this. Women in this country were sold a bill of goods in the 70s by these radical man-hating feminists who told them that if you're a mother and you're a housewife, you're a drudge, you're not getting yourself, you're not being what you should be. Well, these poor women were sold a bill of goods, and now as they're past childbearing age, they're finding out that being a mother is the greatest thing that a woman can be. It is the most satisfying. And so what they've done is they've sold a generation on lies, and they are the ones who have planted the seeds of destruction in this country. Thank you. All the animals and stop people from wearing furs and medical experiments. Yeah, you see, they're ready to save the world, but he couldn't even save his own brother Daniel, a low-life, degenerate crackhead, and that's all his brother Daniel Baldwin is. So while Alec Baldwin can go out and save the world and tell us what to do, when it comes to his own flesh and blood, like all of the rest of the Hollywood vermin, he can't do a damn thing. And when I hear these ignoramuses come up with that pathetic argument, such as, it's the president's personal life, what his sex life does is, wait, it's none of our concern. Oh, yeah? You remember, Bob, how they crucified John Tower? You remember how they took this bachelor and they said that, oh, you go out with women and you drink. Could you imagine who was the head of this inquisition, this crucifixion? Why, the chap of Quiddick himself, Ted Kennedy, the man who proves if your name is Kennedy, yes, you can get away with murder. So don't let us be conned and tricked by the political vermin of Hollywood, because they truly show that do as I say, but not as I do. Thank you.
Magnificent. Vintage Frank, ladies and gentlemen, and that's so true. I don't know if you're aware of it, but there was a big party, what the media, the gossip columnists like to call a hot ticket party at the White House. And you know something? I resent my tax dollars going to pay for a lavish party at the White House, serving expensive champagne, wines, the finest foods, and all the accoutrements that go with a party of that type. And they had over 200 guests, and mainly they were the Hollywood types that Frank of Queens was just talking about. And you had Barbra Streisand, which Frank alluded to, coming in with, as the gossip columnists like to say, her squeeze. That's James Brolin. That's her squeeze. See, people aren't people. They're not human beings with feelings, with emotions, with senses, with dimensions. No, there is a squeeze, a toy. This is my toy. I can't show up unless I have on my arm a toy. If you're an aging gentleman, you have what they call a trophy. That's some young chickie poo with the curves in the right places and lines in the right places, and the lines are not on her face. That's a trophy. But if you're Barbra Streisand, you come in with a squeeze, James Brolin. And there was Harrison Ford hobnobbing, and Tom Hanks. Frank of Queens forgot to mention Tom Hanks, who is a fine actor and who deserved his Academy Awards. I don't begrudge him that. But what a political moron. What a political moron. He had been offered the lead role in the motion picture version of Joel Klein's book, Primary Colors, which everybody knows is the story of the Bill Clinton campaign in 1992. I read Primary Colors when it first came out, and it was intriguing reading. Tom Hanks said he would not play his idol, Bill Clinton. But why should I be surprised? I have known for years that most actors, when it comes to anything other than performing on the silver screen or on the stage, are absolutely out of their element, are pure morons. Tommy in Bricktown, you're on WOR. What's on your mind?
Yes, it is a distinct privilege and pleasure to follow the articulate and sagacious Frank from Queens. But even though I'm sort of disappointed in you, in your metamorphosis, Bob, I think you're still the best. I like to talk about the Middle East. I think it's outrageous that we should sort of threaten a sovereign nation with blanket bombing, which will kill thousands of innocent civilians and potentially risk years of terrorism on our own land and possibly a world war, because our foreign policy is directed by that little pugnacious, sanctimonious, unattractive trio consisting of Albright, Cohen, and Berger. Sounds like a stock brokerage house. Isn't that a little strange, though? Let's worry about our own borders, not the Middle East.
Well, we can't. Years ago, maybe we could say that, but we can't say that now.
Why so?
Well, for a very good reason. If Saddam Hussein is not checked, there's no telling what he will do. Why does he create weapons of mass destruction? Why does he hoard chemical weapons, biological weapons? Why? Just to have them for, because they look nice?
Let me answer that question. Every nation in the world probably has more chemical and biological weapons than they do.
I doubt that very seriously, and
we certainly do.
Well, yeah, but we are not invading Canada like he invaded Kuwait. Think about it, Tommy, and straight ahead to the WOR Traffic Control Center and Karen McHugh.
All right, Bob, right now we'll look at the Route 80 situation. Westbound on 80 slow from exit 62 to exit 57, then at exit 34. That earlier accident has all been cleared up. Passaic eastbound 46 at Route 3, got 3-car accident all cleared up. Hudson County northbound Tunnelly Avenue, Route 3, North Bergen, disabled tractor-trailer now being cleared. New Jersey Turnpike northbound Eastern Spur interchange 16E, got a 2 to 3 mile delay, all because of volume. In the Bronx, eastbound Cross Bronx slow from the apartments to Webster Avenue. Westchester, don't forget, Route 1 remains closed both ways near Route 95 in Pelham Manor because of a general alarm building fire. Also at Westchester northbound Hutch on the ramp to the Cross County Parkway, there's a disabled vehicle there. Outbound Hudson River crossings heavy in all approaches of the George, 10 to 15 Lincoln, 2025 Holland. This report brought to you by Encore. Remember Goldie Hawn and Burt Reynolds and Best Friends tonight? See him on Encore, the movie channel. Commercial free. Just call 800-210-4000 for Encore. The movies of your life. More of Bob Grant coming up next on WOR.
Hi, everybody. This is John Gambling here once again to talk to you about something that I spend a lot of time with. My Select Comfort sleep system. As you know, I sleep in shifts with the job I have, getting up early in the morning, and it makes a very big difference to me to make what little time available for sleep that I have the best. And that's what happens when you sleep on a Select Comfort sleep system. Touch of a button, you change the comfort level. The comfort level that you're looking for is available right at your fingertips. The Select Comfort sleep system gives you complete support from head to toe. I want you to find out more about it. In fact, now through the end of the month, you can receive up to $200 off Select Comfort foundations with the purchase of select sets. Find the Select Comfort store near you at the Westchester Mall, the Nanuet Mall, Stanford Town Center, Danbury Fair Mall, Brass Mills Center, Trumbull Shopping Center, too. It's time for you to buy a mattress, a Select Comfort mattress.
Most kids dream of growing up to be someone special, but some kids dream of just growing up to be like other kids. These are children with chronic illnesses or disabilities who need families to love and care for them. New alternatives for children looking for families with healthcare experience who can open their hearts and homes to provide 24-hour in-home foster care for children with chronic illnesses or disabilities. Especially needed are families for older children and children in wheelchairs. To become a foster parent or volunteer, call 212-696-1550. A message from WOR.
Bring your skin problems to Physoderm. Leah Ferguson of Winona, New Jersey writes,
Dear Physoderm, I have tried other products on my sensitive skin, but they always seem to break my face out and end up doing more harm than good.
Physoderm Skin Cleanser was formulated by dermatologists, and it's pH balanced to remove dirt, oil, and makeup without drying. Plus, Physoderm for sensitive skin is fragrance-free, so it rinses clean, leaving no residue behind to cause skin irritations.
It's nice for a change to have a product live up to its claim. Thanks, Physoderm.
Physoderm, the daily prescription for healthy skin.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you that if your kitchen, now listen closely, if your kitchen is ready for the new millennium, then you don't have to pay any attention to what I'm going to say. But if it isn't, then you listen closely. How about the powder room? Is it ready for the 21st century? Well, 1998 is the year to beat the rush of people stampeding to make their homes prepared for the future. Plan now. And seriously, you know who you can rely on for the planning, the home remodelers. That's who. For over 26 years, the home remodelers have been helping WOR radio families make their homes ready for changing seasons, for holidays, for upgrades before selling, and now for the 21st century. And until February 28th, they're offering WOR radio listeners 10% off inside work, new kitchens and baths, kitchen cabinet refacings. 10% off inside work, booked before the end of February. A new year is a great time to get a great home remodeler's remodeling job and get 10% off the usual cost. And it'll all be done beautifully, on time, in budget, and long before the millennium. So go ahead. Call Jerry Lean in New Jersey at 973-227-9393. Or in New York, call George Cambria at 212-REMODEL. That's 973-227-9393 or 212-REMODEL. All right, on WOR, Jimmy from Waldwick. What's on your mind, Jimmy?
Hello, Bob. Bob,
Bob, I'd like you to come over to my house. My wife wants to cook you dinner.
Let's say hello to Gloria, checking in from Tom's River on WOR. Hello, Gloria.
Hi, Bob. There's a couple of things that's really on my mind. That interview with Jim Lear, when the President of the United States alluded twice that America is a leader of the free world now, but it won't always be. That upset me more than anything, because I love my country and I feel allegiance to the founders and the forefathers. But when the President of the United States says twice that America is the leader of the free world now, but it won't always be, doesn't that tell you something? And another thing that gets me so angry is this palming of Ken Starr. I watched the Senate investigation committee of the Whitewater, and these educated elites lost their brains. All they could do is say, I don't remember, I don't recall. If I were a senator, I would have accused them right there with perjury or sent them for a CAT scan and have the brain examined. But the phoniness that goes on. Oh, there's another thing I wanted to tell you, that my aunt, uneducated, gave me very good words of wisdom when I was a child. That you can always trust a thief, but you can't trust a liar. Because a thief you can catch in the act, but a liar continues to lie and lie and lie. And I've relieved my mind.
All right. Thank you very much, Gloria, right here on WOR. Ed in Suffolk, you're on WOR.
I want to talk about the greatest scandal of the century, Franklin Roosevelt's body. When he died, they never opened the coffin, Bob. They opened Lincoln's coffin, Garfield's, McKinley's, and Harding's. But they didn't open his coffin. And that's one of the greatest scandals of this century, and I want to know why you never talk about that.
Well, I never talk about that. He died on April 12th, 1945. Now, if we want to, if it's relevant to something we're discussing in 1998, I'll be happy to talk about it.
Well, the scandals that are going on, and that's one of the greatest scandals. What would they
Why do you consider, hold on a minute, why do you consider that such a scandal? Because he had a closed casket?
Well, because the man was diagnosed as dying in 1944. And everybody knew it in the White House. And the doctors who examined him, knew he had malignant hypertension. They knew he had the beginnings of congestive heart failure. They knew he had circulatory problems, and they knew he would die shortly, but they never told the American people.
Well, that's the scandal, not the fact that the casket remained closed.
But they closed it because they wanted no autopsy.
Look, what good would it have done to have the casket open? The American people were so mesmerized, so seduced by this faker that they were bound and determined to give him a fourth term, and they would not have given him a fourth term if photos had been shown demonstrating that this man was indeed dying. And the Chicago Tribune was the only newspaper to publish a photo. It showed, I recall the caption saying, Franklin D. Roosevelt on the west portico of the White House. So you can see that in your history books now. The man was only 63 years of age when he died. Did you know that?
Yes, I did.
But he looked like he was 93.
That's the point.
And then we sent him, or he went to Yalta, halfway around the world. Joe Stalin, who was a butcher and actually killed, at the very least, as many people as Hitler, and probably more. Joe Stalin would not travel afar to meet him, so he met him in Yalta, in the Caucasus, which was a part of the Soviet Union. But here this guy went to Yalta. Now, I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, if you're really interested in history, as Ed in Suffolk is, take a look at the photos of the people at Yalta. The big three, they called them. Joe Stalin with Marshal Zhukov and Bolotov behind him. Winston Churchill with Anthony Eden behind him. And who's behind FDR? His personal physician, Admiral Graham, and an advisor by the name of Alger Hiss.
That's right. And that's why he was so sick That's why what happened in Eastern Europe happened. That's why it's one of the greatest.
Why, sure, he allowed an Iron Curtain to descend on Europe, as Winston Churchill pointed out in his brilliant speech in Fulton, Missouri in 1946, from Stettin in the north to the Balkans in the south. Yes.
But nobody knows about it except a few people today, and that's what will happen 50
well,
years
they
from now.
said, now wait a minute, the report was that he died of a cerebral hemorrhage. Now, do you doubt that? His last words.
I doubt that.
His last words were, "I have a terrific headache."
Right, but
and then
they
he
knew
died.
he was going to die, Bob. They knew it, and they didn't tell us. That's the scandal.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm trying to point out to this guy the scandal was not that they didn't open the coffin, which would have, what good would it have done? People would say, "Oh, I take my vote back now that I see his corpse." No, they, nowadays you wouldn't be able to get away with that. Pretty soon they're going to be putting video cameras, television cameras, in that room next to the Oval Office, and his slickness will have to find another place to meet a paramour. All right, John in Carteret, you're on WOR. What's on your mind?
Good evening, Bob. Bob, I've listened to your program over the years, but one program you did about 5 years ago that stands in my mind, you were doing a simulcast on C-SPAN. And a gentleman called you up. He was outside chopping wood. His wife saw you on TV, so she went out to get him. And who was it? Ronald Reagan. When I heard his voice, that sent chills up my spine. A good, decent man. And I don't need Congress to pass a national holiday in his honor. I put my flag out today in honor of his birthday. And a lot of Democrats seem to forget. I think 18 voted for the passing of his name on National Airport in Washington. 18 in Congress and 18 in the House of Representatives. And how fast they forget that the same gentleman signed the legislation back in 1986 to make Martin Luther King's holiday a national day.
Well, that's true. That's true. And that was April 8th, 1994, that program on C-SPAN that you spoke about. April 8th, 1994, when that call came from Santa Barbara.
Well, regardless of what people say, he's still my president. I hold the uttermost respect for the man.
What a decent man. What a decent man. Thank you very much, John in Carteret. Appreciate it. On WOR, here's Madeline from Connecticut. You're on WOR. What's on your mind, Madeline?
Yes, good evening, Bob. A quick kind of silly observation. Hillary in her defense of Bill does kind of remind me of Mary Jo Buttafuoco.
Good analogy. No, that's a good comparison.
Yeah. Second, my more important question to you, and it really is a question for me. I haven't heard it discussed anywhere. If, say, diplomacy does work with Iraq and the UN inspectors are able to go back in, and suppose they find things, what indeed is going to happen, and how indeed will getting rid of these things be enforced? How?
Well, the UN, according to the terms that were originally laid down, is supposed to have the authority to destroy the biological weapons or the chemical weapons if they find them. The big joke is, and it's not a joke that you laugh at, it's pathetic. The irony is this. Ambassador Butler, representing the United Nations, Secretary of State Albright, Secretary of Defense Cohen, everybody knows that this guy is hiding weapons of mass destruction.
Sure.
Chemical warfare, biological weapons, and who knows, maybe a nuke or two somewhere. But we all know that he's doing that, and yet we play the game of, we have to have access. And I'm afraid that it's just going to play out this way until one day when he croaks. Luckily, he'll croak before he unleashes these weapons. But this is a man who has demonstrated that he has only contempt for human life, whether it's an Iraqi life or any other life.
Right. Well, in the agreement that was supposedly enforced upon Sudan at the end of the Gulf War, was there a mechanism set up as to how, if indeed things were found, they would be destroyed? I mean,
well, I don't know about the physical procedure. I don't
because then that could be another bone of contention.
It makes no difference what the procedure is, except that they would have the responsibility to neutralize, dispose, however, render these weapons harmless.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, Madeline, and let's swing over now on WOR to the WOR Traffic Control Center. There's a guy who's been working very hard all week. Oh, no, I guess he's not there. Instead, we'll go to Karen McHugh.
All right, Bob. And we'll talk about the Bronx right now because the eastbound Cross Bronx Expressway is slow from the apartments to Webster Avenue. Suffolk County eastbound Sunrise Highway jammed from the southern state to Oakdale Bohemia Road with an accident in the right lane. Traveling on Route 80, still troubles there. Westbound, you slow from exit 62 to exit 57, then at exit 34. That earlier accident has been all cleared up. Heading to the outbound George, northbound Harlem River Drive at 156th Street. There's an accident in the left lane. Westbound Cross Bronx slow from Westchester Avenue to Jerome Avenue. Northbound West Side Highway still slow from the 70s all the way up to the George. New Jersey Turnpike, northbound Eastern Spur, interchange 16E. We're talking about 2 to 3 mile delays there because of volume. Other Hudson River crossings, checking the Lincoln, 10 minutes outbound. Holland, 20 outbound. Inbound on the Lincoln, 30 minutes inbound as well. At the Holland, you're coming into town, take the George. Minor delays at this time. Traffic's brought to you by Contact on pay-per-view. Jodie Foster, Matthew McConaughey star in the hit Contact. See the movie critics are calling one of the best films of the decade. Order Contact tonight and all through February and March on pay-per-view. More of Bob Grant.